I'm Dana Denha, and you're watching FYI. Every day, we celebrate nations throughout the world with the food we eat, the clothes we wear, and the entertainment we enjoy. And now in Ann Arbor, you can get immersed in Chinese culture by signing up for classes at the Taiwan Center for Mandarin Learning.
Here we are cutting the ribbon and celebrating the grand opening of the Taiwan Center for Mandarin Language.
We want to establish in this Ann Arbor community as a best option if you want to know the traditional Mandarin culture.
It's impossible to miss the fact that Ann Arbor is already home to a large Taiwanese American population. We have a lot of Mandarin speakers here. But also, I think that as we look towards the future, Mandarin is such an important language internationally. It would give people who learn Mandarin so many tools and so many additional opportunities to communicate with people around the world, make connections.
We are hoping in that exchanging of ideas that we can synergize some sort of a new path for language learning.
Let's continue to build those connections between Taiwan and between Ann Arbor.
Spread the word.
Sign up at tcml-annarbor.org. Stay tuned, and we'll be back with more in exactly 30 seconds. March is Maple Sugar Month at Metro Parks throughout the area. During this time, learn the technique of getting the sap from tree to table. Hudson Mills Metro Park is home to the sugar bush. These trees, tapped yearly, produce some delectable maple syrup.
We are making maple sugar. We're tapping our maple trees. When I say tap, I don't mean we're tapping like a woodpecker, but we're putting a little hole in there and taking some of the sap out. And here at the evaporator, we're boiling it down into maple syrup.
We tapped the tree to get the maple out of it, and we got to taste it.
Deep-rooted in America's history is the tapping of maple trees.
Maple sugaring was started by our native people that were here before the Europeans got here. It was just a way of making food at that time of the year when your winter food stores were used up.
What I liked the most was learning about how the different tools have evolved through the years from when they first started doing this with the Native Americans up till now using more newer technology.
Back then, they would use a wooden trough to boil it down in. Throwing hot rocks into the liquid would cause it to boil. So it's kind of a rocks in, rocks out, and they would actually continue on until they had a dried sugar product at the very end. So they wouldn't store it as maple syrup, it would actually be a dry sugar. They're gonna kind of look at the history of it. They're gonna see how the natives made it, how the first settlers made it, and how we're doing it today.
The city's first Resilience Hub offers food security and support to residents throughout the county. Learn about the Resilience Hub in this month's City Roundup in 60.
Hi, I'm Derek Miller, Executive Director at Community Action Network. Community Action Network manages 7 community centers throughout Washtenaw County, and we focus on education, housing stabilization, and community building services. CAN also manages the Northside Community Center, located off of Taylor Street on the north end of town. Northside Community Center is also a City of Ann Arbor Parks and Recreation facility, and we also partner with a variety of city departments, including the Office of Sustainability and Innovations. Northside in particular is actually a resiliency hub. We've added solar that is fully offsetting the electrical usage of this site. But in addition to that, we also added batteries And that batteries allows us to keep power on site in the event of a grid outage. And that is important, particularly at this location, as it serves as a food distribution location for City of Ann Arbor residents as well as county residents alike. If you're interested in learning more about Community Action Network, as well as the Northside Community Center, please feel free to visit canwashtenaw.org or feel free to email info@canwashtenaw.org. Thank you.
In 1986, the Challenger Center was born as a way to honor the hardworking crew that lost their lives on the Challenger shuttle. Over time, the program expanded to 40 Challenger Learning Centers and digital offerings throughout the world. And now you can see it for yourself at the opening of Michigan's first Challenger Learning Center on the campus of St. Clair County Community College, Port Huron campus. Joining me is David Clipner, Director of Education for Leslie Science and Nature Center. Welcome back to the show, David.
Good to be here.
Why don't you just tell us what these Challenger Learning Centers are? I mean, there's obviously a model around the country that they're made, but this is the first one we're going to see here in Michigan.
Yeah, it's the first one that we're going to see here in Michigan, and I would argue that it's going to be unique anyway. Like if you look at the other 40 center, I mean, we're going to be very unique for several different reasons that I'll let you know about. So what it's focusing on are these immersive space programs. Right. So the idea is that students or any participant, I should say, we serve children of all ages, will come in here and they're going to experience something that is a simulated mission. So they're actually going on a simulation. It's in the immersive nature of it. I mean, there's no way until you've actually visited for you to understand what that's going to look like, because once you enter the facility, game on. I mean, we hit the ground running and like you're surrounded by all of the aesthetics of literally feeling like you're at mission control. And then, our staff is going to deliver it as if we're delivering a very important mission. And you're just a piece of that. So you go into a program that is divided up into a couple of different portions. There's going to be mission control. But before you even get divided up into mission control or the other pieces, there's a briefing room that literally sets the stage. You come in and you get told about what the mission is going to be, what the challenges that we have ahead of us, make sure everyone's on the same page. And then the group's split in half. Half of them go into mission control and the other half go into a transport setting where they're going to actually go to the spacecraft. There's a launch sequence and everything. Obviously, this is going to be, involve collaboration between the two groups, which is also fun. They'll communicate to each other through microphones. And once they've launched through there, the one team's on the spacecraft and they'll enter into a lab where they're going to do various different technical challenges and making sure that they're collecting data and communicating back to mission control. And it's just so much fun and so exciting, even to watch it. Even if you're not participating, just watching those missions is a good time. I'm pretty pumped.
It sounds like that movie Space Camp from the 80s. Like it's like you're
I like
camp.
that.
It's like this immersive space camp.
It kind of is. Yeah, it's just it's a little 2-hour chunk of space camp. I like that. That's a good analogy. The teams is also really important. When I think about what I like about this type of programming too, is that it's facilitating some of this teamwork that is often integrated into our school settings, but can sometimes be a little bit difficult. It's just par for the course for this program. They have to work together and they want to. I think that's the other reason. We're giving them reasons to want to accomplish the mission. So they want to engage with each other. They have to communicate with different teams. We have nav teams like navigation that have to collect data of where we're going to land. We have teams that are biologists or botanists. We have geologists and communications or comm team, and they have to communicate with each other and share information and data to accomplish the mission. So there, I love that students that otherwise would kind of like, stick to themselves and like do their own thing are encouraged and engaging with other teams. And it's just really fun to see also those moments of students getting outside of the comfort zone, which is really critical for development.
Well, I think you're so right about that too, because I can think back to my own days in high school and college and being in those group settings. And it always felt like, there was like those 1 or 2 people, myself is probably one of them, that was doing like all the work because they're like, I just want to make sure the work is done kind of thing. But really, in actuality, because this is sort of like teaching people about careers and stuff too. In your career, I know I can attest to this. I'm sure you can too. Careers are a lot about teamwork. You have to work with other people. You can't do everything by yourself all the time. So like maybe a school project, you might be able to pull it off, but like you really should learn how to work in a team. That's part of life.
That's right. I mean, and these missions are designed as such so that you can't really squeeze through the cracks. Like you have to collaborate or you won't succeed. You can't complete the mission. And I think that's kind of interesting. It's a lesson in and of itself, right? And that teamwork and the collaboration that's required, especially in the STEM fields, being exposed to this in a way that is fun is probably the most critical piece of it, right? It's a way to say, hey, this is actually a good time. And like, look at the success you get to celebrate together, as opposed to, a more traditional, like, here's a group project assignment. And then, like you said, it's a little bit skewed as far as the ratio of like where the work balance comes in. This is more of you want to engage and you want to be a part of it. So I love that component of it. Yeah.
You mentioned like other things like biology and things like that. How does this work into the space program?
Sure. Yeah. So I am really pumped about like trying to create some more innovative components to our programs, because we already have a huge breadth of offerings. So I should back up and say, how this kind of came about is that you're familiar with our Unity and Learning Initiative, which is really a set of deep-rooted partnerships. And St. Clair County Community College is our newest member of the Unity and Learning group. We also partner heavily and are partnering with the Yankee Air Museum in Belleville. So now we have a complete slew of programming for aerospace, as well as the Leslie Science and Nature Center and Ann Arbor Hands-On Museum programming that we have. And it really just shows that we can do anything science now, like anything. It's kind of a dream come true for someone as an education director. I'm like, oh, I can do anything now. I can teach any programs they're developing and kind of interrelate them together. So to your point, now it's not so much like, well, I can do a natural science program and just talk about biology. It's more of, how can I take and speak to how a biologist is critical and integral to space programming, right? Because it is. And, case in point, like I said, that we have a bio team in the missions that we launch out in that Challenger Learning Center programming set. So now, how can I take the natural science and wildlife programming that we do, for example, at the Nature Center, and integrate it into our Challenger Learning Center? I mean, I'm literally training animals right now, like to be integrated in here. I'm looking at some of they're just hanging out here. Like I'm working on training animals and wildlife, because I think that, they are connected. And what I love about this opportunity to integrate these experiences is now, often you'll create a program, maybe it's just biology focused, and then you get 30 students and, a handful of them are going to be really hooked and they're going to be on board and they're going to love that. You've exposed everyone, but you're really engaging a handful more than others. With this opportunity, we can take and say, I'm going to show you all of the different STEM and all of the different sciences within one program set, so that everyone sees themselves potentially, having a career somewhere in STEM. It's really quite fascinating how this is all going to come together. It's the perfect partnership.
Do you feel like that you have to constantly be learning to keep up with trends and stuff, because you are the director of education at Leslie Science and Nature Center?
Absolutely, I do. But that's actually why I like the job. I tell my staff all the time, I think that the best teachers are people that are lifelong learners. And if you love to learn, then you will naturally be a better teacher. So I thrive on this. I almost sometimes I joke and say I fear complacency. Like I get I don't want to be bored, right? So like I love that I'm learning something constantly new all the time, and science really just opens the door for that, right? There's so much to learn, and we're constantly exploring. Things are changing all the time, so it's actually the perfect role for me. I love diving into new content areas and trying to think about how I can make those connections. How can I connect these other sciences together, because they are so related. And again, back to this. The fact that it's like laid out the way it is with just teams that all have different roles. I mean, I would want to do it 100 times so that I could do all the different roles and I can just keep doing the program and learn all the different angles. But I get to see that like from the back end. So I win.
Well, you sort of mentioned these partnerships that you have, and Leslie Science and Nature Center sort of broadening its horizons and you working in different organizations. I mean, we're talking about Port Huron here. This is not just our backyard anymore. So you're actually sort of inviting people to travel around Michigan to learn. And I really honestly would say I want to go to this Challenger Learning Center. It sounds really cool, and it's worth the drive.
Well, we'll get you out there. Don't worry. We'll get you out. Yeah. It's funny. Like, the term backyard has really expanded for me. I like to think our backyard is basically Southeast Michigan at this point. And, since we've merged, the Leslie Science and Nature Center and Ann Arbor Hands-On Museum have merged, since we're one institution, I thought that was huge and that we were really growing. But but to think about where we're at today and being able to cover the whole gambit of the whole area of Southeast Michigan now with programming and make sure we have that reach, it's brilliant. There is a little bit of travel involved, but with an experience like this, it's so unique. A 2-hour experience to go up to Port Huron. One, it's beautiful. I love Port Huron. I think it's a great area. But I think that we can serve other students in that region first and foremost. But then there's going to be opportunities, obviously, for these extended field trips for all the way around the region. And I think it's a prime location. If you picture Southeast Michigan and where Port Huron is, I think it's a great space. It opens up opportunity for other partnerships as well in that region close to the water. As a naturalist, I really love the idea of working with our friends, the Friends of St. Clair River. So that's another really great one. They have brought in and house a lake sturgeon inside the Experience Center at SC4. So that's another really cool opportunity to get to see a lake sturgeon up close. So there's just, partnerships are the name of the game. And I love collaborating with as many people as possible. And now we have a whole slew of other organizations and institutions in that region and other schools, frankly, that we can reach with our programming now, because we can take some of our programming that we do at Leslie Science Nature Center, Ann Arbor Hands-On Museum, and in Belleville Yankee Air Museum. And now we can kind of implement it out of St. Clair, out of Port Huron. And now all of these schools that might not have been able to make the trip, now we can just bring that program to them. Because it goes beyond just the actual Challenger Learning Center programming in-house. We are also going to be offering some of these missions in classrooms, these classroom adventures out of the Challenger Learning Center, as well as, again, all of the programming that we already do for outreach, and including our virtual programming. There's a lot of distance learning and virtual programs that we'll be able to offer as well.
Yeah, when I first moved here, I felt like Ann Arbor was like this destination, and like people that I knew that I grew up with that lived like over an hour away would have to come to Ann Arbor to experience Leslie Science and Nature Center, the hands-on museum. So I just really like this idea that it is expanding. So it's not like you have to come to Ann Arbor to experience these really cool educational activities, that it could be closer to you, or maybe it is a little further, but it's worth it. It's just like that offering all over the place is really just like a really cool idea to get everybody involved, and not just the Ann Arbor community.
Sure. Yeah. And it also highlights that there's, it's kind of flipped the coin a little bit. Now there's going to be folks that are going to want to go to Port Huron. So now there's people from Ann Arbor that are going to want to go to Port Huron for this unique experience. And I think that's really cool. I love the idea of all around the region, kind of everyone having their own little thing that is exciting and unique to draw people around and really encourage them to branch out. We talk about being exposed to different cultures and environments, but really, it is fascinating to me that you can go 15 minutes in any direction and, the people are unique and what they have to offer is unique. And I love that. So I'm excited to also encourage other school districts from different regions to make a trip to Port Huron for this Challenger Learning experience. I think it's going to be great.
So it hasn't opened yet. It's going to open. When is it? And that first day, they're asking for people to register, right?
Right. So I'm asking people to register for a couple of different things. One, we have our grand opening that's going to happen on April 30th. That's to launch, if you will, the Challenger Learning Center. But then after that, we're filling up right now. We're filling up the months of May and beyond with experiences for students to come in, community centers. We have different other organization institutions like scout groups that can come in and do these all the way up. And, like I said earlier, children of all ages, you really do turn into a child when you come into an experience like that. It's just like, you get invigorated. But we're going to be doing team building opportunities and programming for the missions with corporate institutions and other organizations. So it really crosses the gamut. Like pretty much anyone is going to have an opportunity to experience this if they make the trip. So yes, definitely talking to a lot of district leaders to try to integrate these programs into their curriculum is going to be the long-term mission, because I think that, it is so unique and it's so valuable, and I want everyone to be able to experience it if possible. So what that means is as a forethought for me, it's about accessibility and making sure that I can create a program set that everyone can have an opportunity to get involved with.
And rumor has it there's actually going to be some reps from NASA at the Challenger Learning Center, at least on that opening day, right?
Yep. So the opening day and beyond, what's beautiful about the Challenging Learning Center is how connected they are. They have so many resources and so many great individuals and amazing people that we will have and are going to continue to try to explore opportunities to have access to astronauts and NASA employees that we can integrate either in person at events like this, or even virtually through other programs and other public programming and events that we have. And that's going to really supply that connective tissue to the actual STEM world and to the careers that we talked about earlier. This is going to allow someone to actually have that, that kind of time to interact with someone that actually does the job and ask the questions. And that also is a very unique opportunity.
That makes
we do this a lot. Absolutely, it does.
When you're looking for a job. Yeah, like when you're thinking about careers and you can actually like physically talk to someone that's done it before. I mean, it's way better than going into a career blind because you have no idea what you're going to get then.
Well, and it's so funny you said it like that too, because I think one of the challenges we have in our education system is that we'll front load and learn a lot of information, and then at the end, often we learn what it's actually going to be like, and we have that. So, I think people are getting it. We're starting to see a trend of people shifting a little bit the system so that folks can have more of an upfront experience of what the job would be like before they invest all that time and energy into it. But really, with these kinds of roles, I'm fascinated by anyone that wouldn't be excited about a STEM career, because it's just so, it's broad reaching. There's something for everyone. There really is. And I think that's what's kind of interesting about these teams that I mentioned. Someone can say, oh, well, I didn't know, this is the kind of comment you'll get. You're like, I didn't know that you could do that at NASA or something. Those kind of comments are just flying out of students' mouths when they're in there. It's like, I didn't know that I could, because they are interested in something, and it's all relevant. It's all relevant to STEM fields. There are so many different careers. So yes, definitely making sure that we are purposefully exposing them to different pathways to find careers in STEM is going to be an integral part of this programming set.
You mentioned the live sturgeon. Do you want to talk about some of the other activities that maybe aren't marked as space related, but maybe could be integrated as more into that STEM field? And I'm sure everything sort of works together in the Challenger Learning Center.
Yeah, I'm upstairs. So I'll say upstairs because at SC4's facility, we have the Challenger Learning Center is actually located downstairs. And that's actually kind of cool because then you go in and again, you're immersed into the experience. But at the upstairs version, we have the Experience Center proper, which is going to have all kinds of STEM-based education opportunities, a lot of technology that they can get exposed to, along with a really great opportunity that we have at SC4's campus is that they have a really robust medical program, nursing program. So we have some really interesting opportunities there for students to be exposed as well. And what a great thing to have at a community college, right? At a college, just to have also that higher education connection right there that students can say, oh, this is great. And I can see myself there, not just can I see myself in STEM, but I can see myself at this school. I can see myself in college and learning more. And so that is going to be also something that we're going to be making sure that we're as a forethought when we're making decisions. But
I like that idea too, because I think a lot of times that community colleges can get sort of a bad rep for no reason. I think community colleges are great. I went to community college myself. So I think
so did I.
Yeah. So I think I'm always fighting for people go to community college. Community college is one of the, it's such a gem. You have no idea how much money you're saving, how much you're learning, and it's really preparing you for that next step. So I appreciate that you mentioned that, because I'm always just fighting for people to go to community college, because I think that people always think I got to go to a university as soon as I graduate high school, which is not what necessarily what you should be doing. I mean, a lot of times you waste a lot of money doing it that way.
It's true. I think that there in that. It's we could talk about that all day, because I absolutely adore community colleges and on many different levels. But I think that what I'm excited about for SC4 specifically is, community members can see themselves at that school, especially the youth. The youth that are going to come through for these programs specifically, that kind of comfort that they're going to have of, having been on a campus, for example, that's invaluable. I was at a college campus. I got exposed. I met someone that teaches a college course. I met students that attend college courses. Those kinds of experiences are just, the gems that you're speaking about. That's really going to shine there. So if we can we're looking to try to find ways to have opportunities for students to engage that way with the faculty and the students at the college as well. So definitely going to do that for sure. And yes, community colleges are super important in our institution, and also just fun. And, you speak to the financial advantages, but, I think about the staff that I meet at community colleges, and they are so passionate about what they do, and they love the fields that they're in and what they're teaching. And it's just really, really a great place to have something like a Challenger Learning Center or any of our UIL programming. So it's the perfect fit. And you speak to that like connection of the different fields too. We have that building specifically, we're in the Experience Center. There's the Dr. Nasser Natural History Museum on that floor as well, where it says all kinds of fossils and you're transported in there. That's kind of immersive as well. You walk into another space, like, whoa, like all of a sudden you're talking about dinosaurs, and you're like, how does this all?
Who doesn't love a natural history museum? First of all, like our local one, I could go into it any day. I just love it so much.
That's right. Yeah. And the goal of all of this really is to inspire, right? So we're trying to inspire learners of all ages to go out and learn more. And I think that's why we want to make sure that we have this diverse set of experiences for them. Thus, it's called the Experience Center. But I think that, if we can go and, go back to the teams for a second, we got those teams that are in there. There is a geologist team, for example, in some of the missions, right? So now you can do that, and we can go upstairs and we can pull out minerals, and we can talk about geology here on Earth, and how it's related, so if you got excited about that, I think it's going to write itself. I don't even think it's going to be difficult. I guess that's one point. When I think about the program we have, I don't even know what my job is. I don't have to connect anything. It's all going to be connected. It's all worked into the system, and people are just going to see it naturally. That's what's so great. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the adventure.
Well, you've really shown a great light on this. Is there anything else you want to add? I mean, we're just about out of time, but I'm there. I'm ready.
I think that what I would encourage people to do if they have more questions about it is just to reach out and ask us, go to any of our websites and reach out to anyone. And I'm excited to talk specifically to people that have groups of folks that would like to have this experience. So we can start talking now about like, where does the funding come from? How are we going to, what does the travel look like? What is the program? If they have specific questions, I'd love to talk to them and make sure that they know that we're starting in May. Programs are booking now. So we need people to call up if they're excited to get on the list.
Well, thank you, David, so much for telling us about the Challenger Learning Center.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. It's good to see you.
For more on this and other programs, visit a2gov.org/CTN. Visit youtube.com/CTN Ann Arbor to see all that we have to offer. And remember to like, subscribe, and ring that notification. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time to FYI.